Get out of this house. Now. Kayla's voice shook with rage. You're not even my real family. You were just a charity case my parents helped out. The words slammed through the air like a slap in the grand lounge of their Riverside Hills estate. Across from her, 63-year-old Thomas Grant stood quietly by the door, holding a worn-out travel bag. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at the young woman who, years ago, had clung to him like life itself. This was the same man who scrubbed floors, fixed cars, and worked security on weekends just so she could have everything. A private school, a prom dress, a dream. He gave her his room, slept on a mattress in the hallway, and never once asked for anything back. 24 years earlier, Kayla had lost her parents in a boating accident. She was only 4. Thomas, who at the time had been her family's handyman, stepped up when no one else did. No godparents, no aunts or uncles, just him. You know, your parents were barely out of high school when they left you with me, Thomas said softly, trying to stay calm. I loved you like my own. I still do. Kayla scoffed. Yeah? Well, the babysitting job is over. I'm 30 now. I'm a corporate lawyer, engaged to someone who actually matters. I don't need a janitor making my life look pathetic. Across the room, her fiancé Dorian LaSalle leaned smugly against a velvet armchair. With his gold cufflinks and cold grin, he was the kind of man who knew how to wear power like a tailored suit. Honestly, babe, it was time, he said, not even glancing at Thomas. You've outgrown him. Thomas felt the sting. In the last year since Kayla and Dorian started dating, she stopped introducing him as her father. In social gatherings, he became someone who helped raise me. At parties, his name disappeared from conversation. No more Sunday dinners. No more birthday calls. Dorian had whispered to Kayla that Thomas was bad optics. And slowly, she listened. I know what your fancy friends think when they see you living with some broke old man, Kayla spat. They think it's gross. A high-powered attorney living with what, Kayla? Thomas asked. She couldn't finish, but she didn't have to. Dorian stepped in smoothly. With someone who clearly doesn't belong in our world, he said, checking his luxury watch. No offense, Tom, but you have to understand. Reputation is everything. Thomas didn't flinch. He remembered the late nights studying with her, the time he sold his watch to pay for her LSAT prep classes, the time he stitched her graduation dress himself because they couldn't afford the one she wanted. Pack your stuff and leave, Kayla ordered, pointing to the door like a hotel manager dismissing a cleaner. And take down those baby pictures of me. They don't match the interior anymore. He turned to look at the shelf. There had once been dozens of framed memories. Her birthday parties, dance recitals, vacations. Only a few remain now, hidden behind wine bottles and crystal awards. He looked around the house. The fountain he built brick by brick. The garden he planted so she could have somewhere beautiful to read. The broken girl who used to beg him not to leave her alone at night gone. It's fine, Kayla, Thomas said, shifting the strap of his bag. His voice was still, but his eyes? They held something new, a quiet strength, like someone holding back a truth too powerful for the moment. As he turned, Dorian laughed. Well, that was easier than expected. But Thomas wasn't angry, because they had no idea who he really was. They didn't know about the investments he started secretly 15 years ago, or the high-level connections he built without ever stepping into a boardroom, or the fact that despite the janitor jobs, he had never actually been poor. Driving away in his beat-up truck, Thomas didn't look back. His phone buzzed. It was Kayla. Oh, and Tom, she said casually, don't forget to clear out your stuff from the shed. Dorian's turning it into a sauna. And, please don't come by my office again. My coworkers are asking questions. He hung up without a word. The same shed he had built by hand would now be erased like he never existed. He drove to a quiet coffee shop across town, one where he used to mop floors at night to pay for Kayla's school supplies. There, he met up with Roy Lynn, an old friend who now ran a growing security firm. Tom, man, it's been forever. Roy grinned. How's Kayla doing? She's still running that big firm? Thomas nodded, then told him everything. Roy's face darkened. I remember you skipping meals just to afford her school shoes, he muttered. She forgets all that. Maybe, Thomas said, sipping his cold coffee. Or maybe she just doesn't want to remember. Let me guess, Roy said. This Dorian guy got her thinking she'll get some inheritance. Joke's on him though, huh? Thomas pulled out his phone and showed Roy his account. $5.6 million. Roy nearly choked. You serious? That tech startup I invested in, it blew up. I kept quiet so I could find out who really cared. Roy stared at him. So what now? Thomas smiled, but it wasn't a happy one. It was the smile of a man who just realized the people trying to erase him had no idea he'd already won. Now, I'm giving them exactly what they want, he said, rising from the table. I'll vanish from a version of me they know, and come back as someone they never saw coming. The next day, Roy called a contact at a top investment firm in Crestview. Meanwhile, Thomas met with the head consultant in a sleek downtown office. I'm looking to fund community youth centers. Scholarships. Real change, Thomas said. Not vanity projects. A week later, an exclusive charity gala hosted the Crestview Grand Club. Kayla and Dorian arrived like royalty. Dorian in his designer tux. Kayla glowing in a pearl-encrusted dress. This is the kind of place we belong, she whispered. They mingled, unaware that the mystery donor was none other than the man they had discarded. Then the announcement came. Please welcome the man behind tonight's $2 million scholarship fund and 3 new education centers in the city, Thomas Grant. A spotlight hit the stage. Kayla froze. Dorian's jaw dropped. Thomas walked up in a tailored suit, calm, collected. He didn't mention Kayla by name, but every word hit like thunder. I spent 24 years raising a child who I thought would grow to be kind. Instead, I learned that love doesn't always grow loyalty. When the speech ended, Dorian tried to spin it. Kayla was just telling me how much she missed you. Thomas raised a hand. Let's not pretend. You made it clear I don't belong in your circle. You were right. I belong in one that actually helps people. By the end of the night, Kayla's career and social life were in freefall. Weeks later, Thomas launched the Grant Foundation. Within months, it had attracted millions in backing. Students from across the country were being given new chances. Kayla? Fired. Dumped. Broke. Then one day, her phone rang. Hello. It's Thomas. Silence. I want to offer you a job, he said. At the foundation. No special treatment. You'll start from the bottom. But if you work hard, if you really change, we might rebuild what was lost. She accepted. 6 months later, Kayla was helping students fill out applications, students from backgrounds she once dismissed. And finally, she understood. He hadn't destroyed her life. He'd given her a new one. In the end, Thomas Grant didn't just walk away. He rose above. What began as betrayal became a bold transformation, not fueled by revenge, but by purpose. He didn't fight to prove his worth to those who rejected him. He proved it by lifting others who needed a chance, just as he once did for Kayla. And as she slowly rebuilt her life, no longer blinded by status or pride, she began to understand the depth of what she had nearly thrown away. This story isn't just about a man wronged by the one he loved most. It's about how quiet strength, long-suffering love, and unshakable values can rewrite destiny. In a world that often measures people by what they have, Thomas reminded us that legacy is built by what you give. His silence was never weakness, it was waiting. And when he finally spoke, the whole world listened.